Hey, good day to you. This is Todd. I am just a regular dude walking in the Word. Thank you for being with us today as we continue going through the book of Matthew. As we go through Matthew, today we are finishing up chapter 4. How about that? Chapter 4 of the book of Matthew. You thought chapter 4 took a long time? Wait till you get to chapter 5. You're like, we're talking about the Beatitudes and the Sermon on the Mount. You're like, whoa, this is a lot of stuff in here. So we're finishing up chapter 4 today. And this is Jesus ministers in Galilee. And this is taken from Matthew 4, verses 23 to 25. Okay? Matthew 4, 23 to 25. It says this, if you have your Bibles. Jesus went throughout Galilee. Got to turn the page here. Teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness among the people. News about him spread all over Syria, and people brought to him all who were ill and with various diseases, those suffering with severe pain, the demon-possessed and those having seizures, and the paralyzed, and he healed them. Okay, he just about covered every ailment that there was at that time. Okay, verse 25: large crowds from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and the region across Jordan followed him. So that covers about every area around there that was following him. It says large crowds from Galilee and the Decapolis. Decapolis was the 10-region city around the lake. All right. And Jerusalem, Judea, and the region across the Jordan followed him. So all over the place, the people had come to Jesus and followed him. Okay. Jesus was doing, this is, he had started his ministry. We talked about that a couple episodes ago, how Jesus started his public ministry. While he was here, and this is just before the Sermon on the Mount, while he was here, he was doing three things. First thing was this: he was teaching in the synagogues. Okay. Now, he was teaching in the synagogues. Synagogues, a lot of people misunderstand this. They think the synagogue was just like similar to a church. Not that way. A synagogue, let me tell you what the synagogue is. A synagogue was not the temple. It wasn't a substitute for the temple, okay? The temple was the only place you did your sacrifice, okay? You weren't allowed to be doing sacrifices other places. That was the only place for the sacrifice, the temple. However, these synagogues were set up. Imagine I go to Publix and I can get all my groceries there, okay? But then I forget something. I'm like, oh, I forgot the ketchup. I can go down to 7-Eleven and get that. So imagine the synagogue is more like the 7-Eleven, okay? I'm not going to do my sacrifices, but there's certain things I can do. I can be taught there. I can fellowship with other Jewish people there. There's different things I can do there. The synagogue really was like a community center, okay? It was a community center, but then it had religious services going on in there. In the book of Mark, it talks about Jairus, okay? And he had a daughter, a 12-year-old daughter, and Jesus healed that daughter. In that passage, what was his occupation? Jairus' occupation, or you might say Jairus. What was his occupation? He was the head of the synagogue. He was caretaker of the synagogue. So that doesn't mean he ministered. He wasn't like the priest there. He wasn't a priest at all, actually. But he wasn't called to minister there. What he did was made sure it was clean, make sure all the facilities were taken care of. If someone had a special event, he made sure it was okay for that. And then he also made sure that on the Sabbath there was guys lined up to speak and so forth. And a lot of times when Jesus went to the synagogue, which he did, he taught in the synagogue, he was just asked to teach there. Okay, he'd come in and they said, oh, can you teach us? And so that's what it was. So that hopefully that helps you understand what a synagogue was, and this is where Jesus was teaching. Okay, so the first thing, he was teaching in the synagogues. He was preaching the gospel of the kingdom. He was preaching that wherever he went. Okay, not necessarily just in synagogues. And then the third thing, he was healing all kinds of sickness and diseases. Okay, so teaching, preaching, and healing, those three things he was doing. Verse 24 talks about how his fame went out from there, and then as his fame went out, in verse 25, great multitudes followed him. And the great multitudes were following him because he was doing the three things. He was teaching, he was preaching, and he was healing. Okay? And doing those things. So hopefully, That helps you in your understanding of Jesus. Jesus came, he came to teach and preach, all right? And then he was also healing people too at that time. We are also called to teach and preach. We need to be sharing the gospel wherever we go, okay? It doesn't have to be in a synagogue. It doesn't have to be in a church. You just need to be teaching about Jesus wherever you go. So I'd encourage you, wherever you go today, whoever you meet, wherever you're in the 7-Eleven, share the Jesus there. Wherever you're at, share Jesus, teach and preach. Thank you for watching. I'm just a regular dude. Tomorrow we are going to jump in to chapter 5 of the book of Matthew as we start looking at the Sermon on the Mount. All right. Lord's blessing to you. I'll see you then.